My name is Saul Bache, and I play Peter in Love in Vain. So I actually saw the short film first. A friend of mine, Sam, was in that, who plays Lars in the feature. And then when I found out that they were making the short film into a feature, I sort of wanted to be involved in that. Sam put me in touch with Phil, who asked me to audition, and then I ended up with a role of Peter. Peter is the sort of person that always thinks he's doing the right thing and very rarely is. He's got some sort of infallible sense of he's doing the right thing, whereas actually he's quite selfish, but never sees himself in that way. So it's sort of his arc of coming to terms with himself to become a better person. I loved it. I thought it was really funny. That's sort of my main takeaway from the script was the comedy in it. And I don't know if it's because I'm from the same town as Phil that I just got so much of the humor. That was my main takeaway. But then you've also got this weird vampire love story that it's just so bizarre. And just every time I read it, I think of Shaun of the Dead. So I think we've got the next Shaun of the Dead on our hands. So Peter is a very awkward character socially at the start, and he sort of finds this confidence within himself through the time that he spends with Evelyn. And his sort of arc from someone who is quite selfish and quite introverted to finding himself, to finding something that is comfortable, to be more out there. And then sort of towards the end of the film, he starts being a bit more selfless, acting in Emily's interest rather than his own interest. So it's that sort of progression there. Yeah, I mean, when you're playing an introverted character, you don't want to be too introverted that it looks like you're doing a cliche, and you don't want to be too subtle that it's just boring to watch. So I mean, there was a lot of trial and error involved. But I think a lot of that was sort of guidance from Phil, the director, on where the character is at for this particular scene, where they are on that journey, to make it both believably introverted and still interesting to watch. A lot of that is, good direction. A lot of that is sort of the ideas that I had bouncing off the other actors that were in those scenes to try and find something that everyone was happy with. So for this film, I spent a lot of time just on calls with Phil talking about what he wanted for the character. And having him as both the writer and director was really useful because he had a clear idea of who this character was. I also just sort of read through the script so many times to look at not only what was required of the character, but what I thought I would bring to the character initially. And then it was sort of negotiating with Phil to find the middle ground of those two for what we both thought worked within our ideas. And then once we'd got back to look at each scene in more detail to figure out that piece of the puzzle, that one scene in context of the whole film. Working with Phil on set is great because he's very open to suggestions. And I sort of work where I come up with an idea in my head of how I think it's going to go. And then the moment you get on set and you see the location and you get your costume and you meet the other actors, none of that is what you imagined. So then it's all these different people working together to find this shared understanding of the story. And I think the atmosphere that Phil brings on set is very comfortable, very relaxed, that everyone can speak their ideas. And then you throw things at the wall to see what sticks. And then the product that you get is better because people are more comfortable to bring up suggestions that they might not if they hadn't felt as comfortable on set. Yeah, well, I think either the first or second day I did a filming with Millie, she was in full makeup. So I didn't really know her that well at that point. Just to see her in this full head of prosthetic makeup, it was really weird. And it's not something that I'm still used to. But fortunately, one of the scenes that we were doing, I was just meant to look at her quite weirdly. So there wasn't a lot of acting involved, so I just sort of was staring at the back of her head going, what is this? So it worked quite nicely for the context of that first day of filming. But it is strange. I've had a full face of prosthetics before, but I've never worked against someone wearing prosthetics. But it does sort of help bring the character in front of you. You don't have to imagine too much when it's right there. But it does also bring its own challenges where you're almost struggling to take someone seriously because you know it's a person that you know outside of filming, and they're there wearing full makeup, and it's not quite like a Halloween costume. It can look a bit weird and jarring, especially with how the stylistic choice we've taken for vampires in this film. It's a strange situation, but it brings levels to performance that you can't have without it. I think it's his progression over the film. It means that I get to play a wide range of different things because his arc is so big. It's such a shift in his personality that it's really interesting for me to be able to do all of those different elements within one character. It's not a small role where you have only a couple of lines and you're playing this sort of one attitude throughout. With Peter, you've got the full journey. Because it is so extreme that I can just sort of drop in at any moment, and trying to find where he is on that journey is really, really quite interesting. One of the highlights for me, most of the highlights for me are just the on-set antics. And I can't remember the exact scenario, but I do remember some of the crew either falling out or climbing through a window. To try and, I think they were trying to put up some masking for one of the shots so that the lighting would look right. And again, it's that sort of feeling on set where people are comfortable and relaxed, and they're working hard, but they're goofing around in the process. And there's just a lot of fun, a lot of jokes, and that's sort of what I remember a lot about the experience of working on this film. I think that experience is the best teacher, and I think if you want to learn how to be an actor, the best way to do so is to act. I don't think it matters whether that is going to a drama school or to do some sort of acting or English-based degree at a university, or whether it's just getting involved with your local theatre. I think the more that you can do, the more you will understand what it is to act. And then once you know how to act, my best advice to getting work is to just go out and meet people, talk to them, network like crazy, make friends, and hopefully they'll be nice enough to offer you some work if you're the sort of person that people want to work with. Don't forget to like and subscribe to New Latency on all social media platforms.